All right. I hope this works. Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, so we're live.
Cool.
I have this new software to everybody out there. This new Be Live split screen. It's actually really cool because we can like cross promote, say, your brand, my brand. We can just do like a podcast format, but it's live, and which is perfect because it just posts immediately. Mike, how are you, man? It's good to have you on here.
I'm good, brother. Appreciate it, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. It's just, hey, thanks a lot, Rex. So, it was after we met at Air One and kind of went over each of our stories and how we got into running a business. It was great because just having a physical product that was born out of your kitchen, it struck a chord with me because there are so many different ways to run a business and start a business, but when you have a passion for something that, in your case, well, I'll let you tell your own story, but it's something that's cool because a lot of my friends say in the tech industry or app industry, whatever it is, trainers, something like that, it rarely starts just in the kitchen, and that's how mine. One of my products, the night cream, started in cast iron pan, melting down butters and combining essential oils and extracts and stuff like that. So I want to have you on here just to share some more stories with maybe somebody else out there that has something they do very well, and we want to hear the stories of the good and the bad and what you've been through to get to where you are, which is without question to let the audience know out there. Mike, in my opinion, my little treat every now and then is to eat nut butter and say Justin's, or I'll combine and make my own little just almond butter. I used to go through. Remember the Trader Joe's raw creamy Trader Joe's almond butter?
Yeah, they're still doing it.
I couldn't have it around because I go through a jar or at least a half jar, and then it's sitting there, and it's around 9 p.m. You start thinking about half a jar left, and it would be gone
every night.
You're going through 3 jars a week. You start doing the math on the fat that you're taking in. And, thank God, I think they discontinued that, but they brought it back. But I'd make a beeline right past that aisle whenever I go to Trader Joe's. But long story short, I had 3 of your jars over the weekend, and I think you said I started or set a record or whatever. I mean, unbelievable. So just tell a little bit about your product and what got you started in that business, if you can.
Yeah, I think probably the thing I get most often from people, they always say, they say, why nut butter? I get that all the time, and my answer is pretty simple. I was eating so much of it that I said, this can't be that difficult to make. And so, you start to, you comb the aisles of the store and you start to see, peanut butter is a little cheaper than almond butter, and almond butter is about the same price as cashew butter, and pecan butter you rarely even see, but that's even more expensive. And you start thinking there's got to be a better way. And then when you start at first, it's even more expensive than it is to buy it on the shelf, because you buy almonds by themselves and you start grinding them up and you're adding ingredients, and you're adding, salt or cinnamon or whatever you want to do to it. You're roasting. And the way I kind of started was, I thought to myself, there's got to be a way to make this on my own. I bought the cheapest food processor they had on Amazon. I went to the store and I bought nuts from Ralph's for I think pecans were $13.99 a pound, which is insanely expensive. Yeah. And I just started pulling things from my cabinet, and I started saying, I'll try cinnamon, or I'll try vanilla, or I was using protein powder. I was just kind of whatever I could find, making some different concoctions, giving them out to friends, really just spitballing and seeing if it was something that I wanted to pursue. And then after some time, I was giving some things to friends, and we love this, you got to sell it. We love this, you got to sell it. And that kind of started it. I mean, we legally got into business, and I say legally because I was selling to friends and family and things like bootleg jars that I was making up. But legally launched last September, so September of 2016. And it's been super successful kind of since the start. We've had a lot of the same struggles that a lot of startups have. I don't have any business background. I'm not a chef. This is a field that I really initially walking into didn't know anything about other than the fact that I liked it, which is, I guess that should start it. You got to like the product that you're making.
Right.
But since we launched, I've gone through, I started as a cottage food operation where I was making.
You said a cottage food operation. What was that?
Yeah. So we started as a cottage food operation, which is a cool law in California for those of you who don't know. Basically, it's a make a packaged good out of your home kitchen. And there's some rules and regulations that come along with it. But long story short, the health department comes, checks out your operation, makes sure it's legit. And it's a really cool way to get your feet off the ground and get your product out in front of people and figure out if they like it and if you even have anything. And it turned out I did. So we were going to farmers markets and we were doing well there. And we were going to a couple smaller grocers and retailers and doing pretty well there. We were doing a couple pop-ups with some like a Lululemon, and we were doing little things just to kind of get the brand out there. And more than anything, the first 4 to 6 months was more or less about testing it and seeing if people like this before I decided to dump a bunch of money into it and bring on investors or bring on other folks to help out. But yeah, I mean, it's grown pretty steadily. Like I said, I face a lot of the same problems that a lot of entrepreneurs do, and that's with pricing and shipping is going to be the death of me, and things like that, because you don't realize what people see is the product on the shelf. They don't see everything that goes behind it. It looks like a jar with a label on it, but I sourced hundreds of different companies to find the jar that I wanted, and hundreds of different companies to find the cap that I wanted, and different graphic designers and different labels, and you're trying to have that balance between quality and something quality made, but something that isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg, because at the end of the day, we're only as good as our costs for both ourselves and for our consumers.
So I'm curious, how many different food processors did you go through to get that consistency? Because that's the consistency that you currently. It's perfect. But actually now you're in a commercial kitchen, right?
Yeah. So we moved to a commercial kitchen, and we're able to replicate our recipes, pretty identically. There's not much different. What happens with a lot of companies is they start really small, and it's this whole small batch thing. And you hear it from, the liquor business to nut butter to whatever you're making. Small batches is what people want to hear. But we started making small batches, and the only real way to scale is to make larger batches.
Right.
But for perspective, we're still in a typical run. We're still grinding only about 30 pounds of nuts in one run, and that takes about 20 minutes or so, and that'll yield about 20 to 27 jars. But yeah, it still is very small batch. But I went through over the first, I guess, what are we in business now? About 9 months. I've been through about 8, almost 9 food processors, and that's full food processors. I went and bought the cheap ones, and then I started to realize, okay, stop buying the cheap ones. You need to, invest a little bit more and buy a better one. And then I would buy the better ones, and they'd melt or they'd crack, or I got to the point where I was lining up 4 food processors in my kitchen, and God bless my roommate, he didn't give me a hard time about it, but it was constant grinding all night long. And that was because I had orders. I had orders to fill. I had markets that I had to have enough product for. And, the only way to really do it was to do it until the processors stopped working. And so, yeah, I flew through about 8 or 9 of those. Thankfully, it's been a while since I've had to buy a new one. I get the bowls replaced all the time because they still crack, they still melt, they still burn. And they're not perfect because they're not meant, for commercial use. But those things are crucial to product development and being able to, stay at home and grab some pecans or cashews or almonds or peanuts, or whatever you got, and combine it with cool flavors and kind of be able to roast things together and try different things out. And the food processor, I had to learn it all myself. There was definitely a learning curve because sometimes you grind the nuts too finely and it comes out almost like liquid, or you roast them a little too long and the oils kind of really emerge further or faster than you anticipated. And there's a lot that goes into the roasting process and the grinding process that it needs to be kind of meticulously timed.
So that's something that really interested me about the process, and I don't want you to give anything away. It's just there's also a roasting process that you gave the analogy of like walking down say like London, you hear that like hot or you smell that like hot roasted nut, that scent that just takes you back to like say like peanut brittle or something like that. That nice smell that reminds you of say the holidays, and that's such smells, sounds, sights. I mean, those are things that'll bring back memories. It's kind of like evokes emotion, which is what you want, right?
Yeah. I mean, a big part of our initial plan was to kind of play on nostalgia. We did we did peanut butter and jellies, and we just did them, with banana on them. It kind of reminded you of your childhood a little bit. But anybody who grew up, I grew up in New Jersey. Growing up in New Jersey, you walk the boardwalk, or you spend time in the summer walking around at carnivals, fairs, or whatever, and you always got that smell of the sugary nuts and all that kind of floating in the air. But it brings back some kind of it brings back a bit of nostalgia. And so I wanted one thing that's unique about, and this isn't groundbreaking stuff, but it's what separates us from a larger manufacturer, is that we're able to actually combine all the ingredients and bake everything together, because what that does is not only does it bring out the oils and the nuts, but it almost caramelizes our organic maple syrup. It caramelizes our organic agave nectar. It brings a whole new flavor to the product just by baking it all together. And it's when you pull it out of the oven, it smells amazing. It smells like that those roasted nuts you smell on the boardwalk. And that's what I wanted to emulate is again, that nostalgia, but do it in butter form and using healthier organic sweeteners. Basically we want to make a product that's for people who like to be healthy but also appreciate a little indulgence.
Right, and that's another thing. I'm glad you touched on the sweeteners that you use. You also use coconut sugar, which I really like, and it's just, but you have that like the little granules of the salt, and then also the nice little touch of the sweetener. It's perfectly balanced, and I have to give credit where credit's due. I mean, that's why I want to do this, because 100% 10 out of 10. I'm not just saying that. Like, that's all three of them. The nana butter, churro butter, and then what's the other one?
Toasted cashew.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first one. I'm telling you, I was scooping that out with my index and middle finger on the drive home, and I'm start going through all of them. So yeah, you nailed it. So from this point out, it's there's I don't see that. It's just building off that, and I really wanted just to do this because you never know. We're a passion for food, clothing, music, whatever it is. It's just. And one idea can lead to, you never know where it can take you. So, and it's just, but so for the people out there that, what got you from that point to, all right, I have something, cruising around town, selling to friends and that feels good, but taking it to where you are now, I think what website platform are you in, and how are you shipping, and what are you using right now for fulfillment? And yeah, how are you doing that?
Well, we use Shopify, which is a great web service for any e-commerce. It's been really helpful in gaining analytics. We're able to find out where our customers come from. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And one of the best things I learned from one of the partners in the business actually is that when I first started, I was packaging things up really nicely, put them in a nice box with some styrofoam in there or whatever, I'd wrap it up all nice. But the reality is, no one really cares, like, how is it? It might be a little different for your product, because at the end of the day, they just want to make sure that the jars are intact and that they look fine, but they don't really care how it shows up. And that was kind of, it sounds so, those moments where I was like, damn, like that, I was wasting so much extra money on packaging, and I had my shipping rates were through the roof because I wanted to make sure that the packaging looked nice when it showed up. And now, the truth is, man, I could jam 6 jars into a flat rate padded envelope and get it from point A to point B without any problem.
Right.
Which at the end of the day, I mean, again, we're not Amazon, so you got to remember that there's just there's a few hiccups, but it's just nice to be able to get those costs down a little bit for both myself and for the customer, because now we live in a time where people expect shipping to be cheap, fast, and if not free.
Right.
As a small business, we just don't have that option right now until we do get on Amazon.
And is that a goal of yours to get on, Fulfilled by Amazon, Prime, all that? Is that a goal?
Yeah. We want to do it. We got to adjust the pricing a bit to make sure it makes sense. It definitely is. I mean, something like 70% of all online sales are done on Amazon. It's a place where you kind of need to be now, especially in this, in this field, because people are going on there and they'll buy based on the flavor name. A lot of people don't even dig into the ingredients or those things. They'll say, "Oh, churro butter, that sounds sexy. That sounds cool. It sounds different. I got to try this." And so, there's kind of ways to push the product on Amazon. And I know you mentioned to me last time we talked, it's great to hire an Amazon expert, somebody who's able to get in and kind of really show you the ins and outs, because it could be tricky. But we do want to get on there. It's definitely a goal. One thing we're doing soon is changing the packaging just slightly. It'll be the same size, the same amount of product in the jar, but we're changing the packaging slightly. And I just want to make sure before we roll out on a national stage like that, that the packaging's shored up and everything's good to go. But we'll get there.
Yeah, you're not even a year in. Do you have any? I'm just curious. Do you have any other flavors that you're working on right now? The process is fun. Is the best part of it for me. I love just constantly, because you have a full-time job, and so when you come home, this is the work just starts for you on your other baby. So tell us how.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a 9 to 5. I've got a great job that thankfully is flexible and allows me to be able to, get out and if I need to make a stop for the side business or for Papa Bears and get out and go do something, I can. But at the same time, I still have a job to do. I have a job that pays me a salary. So for me, it's kind of been the type of thing where the kind of further we get along with it, the more work it becomes. But as far as doing new products, I'm doing that almost daily. I get truthfully, I take suggestions from people at markets. I talk to people all the time, and they're like, "You should try this. You should try that." And since we've been, we didn't initially roast everything together, and since we've started to do that, and it's really changed the flavor in a positive way, I've really started to experiment with different nuts and different sweeteners and how they react with one another in the oven. Because once it comes out, you're going to get a completely different flavor. But one thing that I always keep in mind is that being a small business, we don't have $1 million in sales. We're still small enough that every penny counts. And so, it's difficult to go buy 100 pounds of almonds just for experiment purposes, because, almonds are going to go for $3.50 a pound. And you're talking $350 and just testing things out. So, I will tell you, we are working on a honey roasted pecan butter, which is pretty awesome. We're gonna have that shirt up pretty soon, and some others. But right now, we definitely want to roll out a fourth. We definitely want to roll out an almond butter in the next 2 to 3 months. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. People only see the product on the shelf, but when you make when you launch a new product within your line. Now, again, you're talking new labels, and you're talking new ingredients, and you're just adding another wrench into this thing. And when you're running things as a solo business owner, and you're doing kind of everything yourself, you have to a lot of times question whether or not you have the capacity to bring on a fourth product. But what I've done that I really like is my minis, my baby bears, I call them. They're kind of mini versions of all my large jars. And the reason I rolled those out was because, we do a lot of markets, and we're kind of out in front of people a lot, but we get a lot of travelers. You know, when you live in Santa Monica, you're always going to have travelers. And so we, I started to think, well, how can I get these travelers? Because they can't take the product on a plane. A lot of those travelers who bought our baby bears, we're taking them home and they were giving them to friends and family, and they were trying them, and they became, our online orders. So, from a business perspective, the best move I made is making those little stupid minis. I mean,
what are they? Ounces? 2?
They're 2 ounces. They're 2 ounces. And I mean, I've sold, I have a company here, an ad agency here, who loves them so much they give them out to clients all the time. They order them by the 100. Yeah. So they'll order 100, 200 of them, and I'll get in the kitchen and crank them out, and they just love them in their gift baskets. And that's been probably the best move I've made.
Yeah, that's really smart. Getting it. I mean, all of our products besides the body lotion, 100 mil, so 100 mil, 3.4 ounces under that 4 ounce. Actually, 3.4, I think, is right at the limit for carry-on.
Right.
Liquid. So, yeah, that's very important. Conferences and things like that, when I see people around, trade shows, it's just getting it so they're able to take it and throw it into their bag. It's important, try it out, and then they can take it online from there. But yeah, I mean, and the thing is another thing. If you have 4 SKUs and it sounds like that could happen by September, and that's a lot to manage. I mean, I went through my first year just with 1, and I think we expanded either that the second year into 2. But yeah, I mean, managing 4 and just staying on top of that quality control and perfection. I mean, it's difficult when it's just you running your baby and everything to be perfect. How often now your commercial kitchen? Did you say that you go down there? Was it like every week or every couple of weeks to just handle it?
Yeah, it's every other week right now, and we're cranking out about 300 to 350 jars per 6-hour run. So you can estimate about 700 jars a month. And I mean, we sell everything we make. So nothing carries over from month to month. Everything's sold at farmers markets, sold online. So from that perspective, we do great. It's a lot of work. We drive up to the valley, and we're it's 108 degrees out there when it's like 72 degrees and sunny in Santa Monica, and it's hot, and the kitchen's hot, and you're on your feet all day. And it's no pun intended, it's a literal grind. You're out there on a Sunday at 6 a.m. and you're there till 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. And not only are you baking and you're mixing and you're milling, you're jarring. And thankfully that I have some good help with me. But a lot of work goes into every single jar that we put out. It's not like we gave some huge manufacturer, $50,000 and said, "Hey, here's the recipes, go for it." This is truly a handmade. Literally, I touch every single jar that gets made. And so, if there's ever anything wrong with anything, who's responsible for it, because I've touched every single jar. Yeah. I put my card in every shipment we send out. And my personal cell phone number is on there, and my email's on there, and if for one reason or another something's wrong with the order, I'm quick to replace, because I understand that. I'm sure mistakes have made. I'm sure maybe a jar that's supposed to be 12 ounces was 11 and a half, or it happens. But it's our blessing and our curse that we're able to still produce in small batches. But hopefully there'll be a time where, like I said, I could hire somebody to go in there and crank them all out and give the recipes. But our plan for the next long while is to remain in that commercial kitchen, because the manufacturer just simply can't replicate the process that we have going on in there.
Yeah, and it's passing on that quality control, and passing on your baby to someone who that may have so many different things going on. If they get one thing wrong, I mean that's your name on it. Mm-hmm. And, that perfection, and that's something that was so hard for me to pass on to someone else. And we went through several manufacturers, and they just couldn't get it down to it. We have a very similar story. That's what drew me to what you're doing. And we wanted to also make the audience aware that Ryan Kalish is how we met. He's a baseball player and a really good friend of yours, and also a partner in Papa Bears. And so that's how you and I met. But then I, on top of that, heard about the story and heard you were grinding it out, doing it yourself. The work that goes into this, the biggest message from me to people out there is it's just there's nothing. Well, there's the work is something that people don't understand. Like the work that goes into this, you have to be ready to pull all nighters. You have to love what you're doing, and you have to, I think you have to perfect, your art form, your creative, whatever you're making, and then also just for me, it's customer service too. So make a perfect product. The product has to be awesome, and then you only have a business because of your customer. And you only have, you just take care of, handle, perfect that process of it as well. And I know you take pride in that, and that's the only reason why we're here, right? Is having that customer and just making sure their whole experience is seamless.
Yep. And I think you'd agree. I think you'd agree that a lot of my first 9 months in business has been trial and error. It's you figure out what works, what doesn't work. Like I said, I don't have a business degree. I don't have, I'm not a chef. My connections are limited when it comes to, having people who are able to, push sales digitally, because now everything's done online. But, we try things, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then we don't do it again. And right. So, it's Facebook ads or it's Instagram ads or, we live in this content is king, culture where you need to post something every day or twice a day. Truthfully, I have fun with that stuff. I love the marketing side of it. I love that we're kind of cheeky and not so serious. And, we call ourselves free range, cage free, wild caught nut butter, which is great because, we do farmers markets, and that sign hangs outside the farmers market, and people stop and stare at it. They take pictures with it, and that, it's that whole little catchphrase is awesome. 9 out of 10 people get it, and there's the 10th who just does not understand it. And I'm like, okay, maybe you're probably not going to be my customer. Yeah. I let that 10th go.
You have those on shirts too, right?
Yeah, I'm wearing one right now, actually. It's just the free range, cage free, wild caught nut butter shirt.
I love the logo, man. I love the logo. You nailed that. The whole packaging, product, everything. I know you spent a lot of time on that, but that's whatever I can do. I know that's the thing, though. It's like it's just getting to that next step. It's difficult, but I believe it's going to happen to you. So I just doing my best to just kind of spread the word that to the audience out there. This is not blowing smoke. This is an unbelievable product. My favorite in this order: toasted coconut cashew, churro butter, and the nana butter. And it's like it's just the way you were able to get the vanilla in there with like the little crystals of the coconut sugar and then maple sugar. I mean, the sweeteners are. I mean, we're not talking cane sugar, granulated sugar, or anything like that. I mean, you took it upon yourself to really get the best, healthiest options in there, and and it shows.
And the beauty of it is because we're baking everything together, it gives the flavor a lot of time. I mean, picture a mixing bowl. Picture like you'd mix anything. We mix everything together in a mixing bowl and we roast it. And, it's nice because we're able to spread out the flavor without having to add a ton more. And that's that little bit of sweetener, the organic sweeteners that we use go a really long way for the flavor and doesn't kill you nutritionally. The second people taste it, they're like, oh, it's got to be loaded with sugar, because sometimes it can be sweet and it just tastes, you assume that if it tastes good, it's got to be bad for you. But for example, I've got our toasted coconut cashew right here. It's 180 calories per 2 tablespoons, which is pretty on par with typical peanut butter, almond butter. 4 grams of sugar, and it's the organic coconut sugar and a tiny bit of organic maple syrup. And then we use a little organic unsweetened coconut flakes rather than getting that really overbearing coconut flavor. It's a subtle coconut flavor along with a little organic coconut oil that
It's
helps
a
as
little
well.
crunch too, right? Those little flakes gives you that little tiny, well, not mean subtle, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Because I mean, we get people. It happens almost weekly. They come up and they say, "Oh, I'm not a," as I'm sure you know, you're either a coconut person or you're not a coconut person. There's not very many people who are in between. And I'm a coconut guy. I love coconut, but there's plenty of people who come up and don't like it. And I'm like, well, we use an organic, unsweetened coconut, so it doesn't kill you with coconut flavor. I think you really like. You should try it. And inevitably, that's our best seller. It's difficult to not like that one. And so even coconut people who aren't coconut people crush that one down and love it. And,
Yeah.
I always say that more often than not is, that's our spoon, on a spoon walking out the door, peanut butter, or I'm sorry, cashew butter. Some people use it as a spread. Some people use it as a dip. Like I said, I'm more often than not on a spoon walking out the door, specifically so it doesn't make me go in and get another spoon. I can pop it on one spoon and get my hands full with all the stuff I need for the day and walk out, and I'm good.
And then also tell them about the churro butter, because that's pecan. And then
Yeah. So
I've never seen that. I mean, you can't find pecan butter. Actually, that's not true. I've seen one. I'm not even gonna say it, but it's, I mean, nowhere near. I mean, it's different. I mean, you could tell yours was produced within, I mean, a week or two. I mean, that's been sitting on shelves in a little pack, and there's no oil content to it. It's I'm talking about the other brand, but yeah, yours is it's amazing. So
yeah.
tell them about the story of how churro butter came to be.
Yeah. I was gonna get to that now. So the churro butter, you don't see a lot of pecan butters, and it's pretty simple. Why? Is because pecans are just an expensive nut,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people aren't willing to, put that much cost into it. And if we do see a pecan butter on the shelf, it's typically in the $15, $16 range. But we're able to make a really solid pecan butter that we sell for $12.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, kind of the way that started is Ryan Kalish, one of the one of our partners. Him and I went to Disneyland. A couple of adult males hanging out at Disneyland on a weekday,
Cool.
And we're kind of just cruising around. And he bought a churro, and he also bought ice cream. And so he dipped his churro into ice cream. And at this point, I was probably about a month into experimenting with nut butters and seeing if it was something I wanted to do. And he's like, "You should make a churro butter."
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of laughed at it, and I was like, "Yeah, I wonder how I would do that." And then I decided that pecans, for whatever reason, churro and the first thing that came to my mind was pecans. And at that point, I had never used pecans for a butter, and so I went to again back to Ralph's. This part of it goes back to how when you first start, in my opinion, any business, you got to be as bootleg as you can, because first of all, no one cares about you. So no one's going to come audit you. No one's going to come bother you. I mean, you do the things that you need to do to stay compliant. But I was going to Ralph's, and they had pecans for $16.99. But when you checked out, they were marked wrong. So I was getting my pecans for $7.99 a pound at Ralph's, which I'm sorry, $3.99 a pound at Ralph's for about 3 months. So, and the truth is, I noticed, but I said, this is going to get a small business off the ground. I'm sure Ralph's could eat the couple $100 that they lose. So I was not stealing. I was just politely, I was paying what it required me to pay. And so thankfully that gave me enough time to experiment with churro butter on a larger level. And so that again, it's simple ingredients. It's roasted pecans. It's organic agave nectar. It's organic coconut sugar. It's a little bit of cinnamon. It's a little organic coconut oil for texture. And then it's a tiny bit of salt. Again, it's really simple, but it's like a cinnamon roll type flavor that is hard not to like. And not tooting my own horn type of thing, but it's unlike anything I've ever tasted. And it goes really well with sliced apples or any fresh fruit or veggie from a farmer's market. It's awesome in oatmeal. And I mean, if you drink shakes in the morning, if you blend up a protein shake or smoothie or anything like that, it's a game changer for that. But again, just the type of thing like you mentioned, it's my go-to sweet snack. It is difficult to keep that serving size where it's supposed to be. That one in particular is a little higher calorically. Pecans are just a higher caloric nut. They're a little higher in fat as well, so the fat's a little higher. But even still, in 2 tablespoons of churro butter, you're talking 190 calories and about 3 grams of sugar per 2 tablespoons, which is, you got to remember 2 tablespoons is, if you keep it to what, if your tablespoon is actually a tablespoon, it's a nice hefty, hefty portion of nut butter.
Yeah, and it's I forget the name of the fat that I don't know if it's oleic acid, but that's actually a healthy nut, more so than I don't know, peanuts, definitely cashew. I don't know about Brazil, but yeah, I mean there are some good nutrients in all of the nuts you use, cashew, pecan, and peanuts. So yeah,
right.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and I mean, people constantly are just like, which is the healthiest, and I'm like, that's such a broad term.
Yeah.
Really, none of them are going to kill you nutritionally. You're going to get some really quality fats from all three. You'll get a couple grams of protein per 2 tablespoons in all three. And I mean, I always say, like, in my opinion, this is a sweet snack. If you want to use it daily, if you want to eat half a jar or a whole jar a day like you do, that's fine. But I kind of, and it does happen. It does happen. But I always recommend it. I'm like, this is like your kind of twice a day little snack that hopefully keeps you full with the fats from the nut and keeps you satisfied, with the sweetness from your organic sweeteners.
And so, yeah, we have a couple questions here. Have either of you, hi Carrie, how are you? She says, have either of you considered free shipping but upping the price of the products to absorb the cost? I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, I have, and I'm still toying with it. But the harsh reality for me is once you start getting into $16, $17 nut butters, because that's what it costs to get to get that free shipping. It's tough to justify. It's tough to find people who are going to pay that price point. A lot of people look at shipping like it's that little add-on that they expect at the end. But I think it was Carrie. Carrie said correctly, like, basically people now expect free shipping or cheap shipping. It should be, Andy, I'm sure you do it all the time. You look at your abandoned checkouts, and my abandoned checkouts are all at shipping because, people don't want to pay an extra $4, $5, $6, whatever it is, to ship the product. But, our hands are tied on that, unless you can really get your margins to the point where you could offer free shipping all the time.
Yeah, when I first started off, like you, I didn't have a degree in business. I just we started selling before we even had a fixed price, before I even knew my raw goods cost, any of that. And so I had to get orders out, and I came up with a PayPal account and came up with a price, and people were just PayPaling me money before I even had a website. Handshaking containers in my back room. But anyway, so $35 free shipping, it just sounded good. And then we're shipping to Sweden, which at that time I was using the 16-ounce containers from Whole Foods. So my product was about 15, 16. Mine's powder, not liquid. So it was it was heavy. And so you're shipping to Sweden, which is probably $21. My cost, I was losing money to ship. So you have to start figuring that out. Right. And I found out my cost. We started properly packaging it. And like you, I just get the best of every ingredients that I can. My serum, when we do wholesale on that, we almost can't even do wholesale because of the cost. I just would, at this low base point right now, I just want to create an incredible product and just let the customers talk and let them tell their friends, and then let word of mouth, let pretty much that be our marketing. So we're not spending, dumping tons of, dollars into marketing campaigns, and we just put that right into the product and let the customers talk. That's what I respond to as a consumer. Just a product that I believe to be just above and beyond what other companies are doing, because they have a full overhead staffs to pay. It's me and my team right here, and that's what we're doing right now. But to answer Carrie's question, it's we do provide free shipping after a certain amount, in both internationally and domestic. So if they reach a certain amount, I forget. I think you said yours is 2 or 3 jars. Is it 3 jars and then it's free shipping, or how do you do it?
Mine's at I'm at 6 jars. You purchase 6 or more jars, it's free shipping. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I do that. I do that because that we end up essentially eating the profit on 1 jar, which is fine. I'm happy to ship 5 jars, make money on 5 jars, and break even on 1, if it means someone's going to order 5 jars. But like I mentioned earlier, a lot of this process is trial and error, and so we're running a promotion right now, $4.99 flat shipping nationwide, which sometimes people respond, sometimes people don't. It's just if it works, great. If not, we've got a few orders from it. But if this promotion doesn't work, like Carrie mentioned, maybe there's a way we can finagle the pricing a little bit, or just eat the cost for a little while and make a little bit less on our bottom line, to get people interested in it, to get people hooked on it.
Right. And in that case, you also have, that's where samples come into play, maybe an add-on, after you give them the sample, one-time offer right here, try the mask for, say, fixed price, definitely discounted, but one-time offer, and make it definitely not option, or right. not as an option on the site. But I mean, there are ways to get around it where you already, have the customer wanting to try the product, and then, hey, here are the reviews are everything to me. So as we talked about, getting that review, that follow up, just from testimonials, videos, anything, just pictures of customers enjoying your product. I mean, that's everything these days. So, okay, I'll let you answer this one. So Carrie again asks, what's the difference between coconut sugar and others? So you want to answer that, because that's
Sure. So organic coconut sugar is lower glycemic index. It's not quite as sweet as typical table sugar, and it's derived from coconut. If you can go to any store at this point now. It's becoming so popular that you can go to just about any store at this point and buy it, and use it as a substitute in anything you bake, anything you cook, that typically uses sugar. It reacts pretty much the same, and it's like I mentioned, it doesn't won't kill you nutritionally. But basically, the major difference and the major talking point for me when I talk about our healthier sweeteners is that sugar is lower glycemic index. Won't spike that blood sugar quite similar or quite as much as typical table sugar would.
Yeah, that's now you nailed that. It definitely has a much lower glycemic index, and I also like that you have maple syrup in there as well. I mean, which actually has some very vital nutrients in it. And I mean, it's just I love the vanilla, cinnamon. I mean, just and also the salt in there too, to kind of bring out the other flavors. You nailed it, man. So I definitely want to put a link so if you could tell people where they can find you on all social media channels, and also your website, that'd be huge.
Sure. It's the website's ilovepapabear.com. You can find us on there. You can use the 10% discount code. It's ilovepapabear at checkout. That'll get you 10% off. And like I mentioned, we're running that $4.99 flat rate shipping for the entire month. So take advantage of that. Our social media handles, they're all at Eat Papa Bears. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's a lot of food porn. It's a lot of kind of healthy memes. Our brand name is Papa Bear's Kind of Healthy Nut Butters. And basically all that means is that, we use sugar, but we use healthier sweeteners, healthier organic sugars that, like I said, I keep saying this, but won't kill you nutritionally. So a lot of our marketing strategy is designed around our kind of healthy memes, which basically just means like, smokes cigarettes, drives a Prius, or joins run club, no shower happy hour, or we just we're about balance, and we like to have fun with the social media stuff because that's what it should be. It should be fun, and in my opinion, there's not to call out any brands in particular, but there's just a lot of people doing the same thing. There's a lot of and I'm kind of guilty of it sometimes too. Food porn is important because people will buy something if it looks good in a photograph. But at the same time, I don't know really anybody who makes recipes off of an Instagram post. Like it's cool to have, it's cool interaction, but not very many people are really going home and banging out that nut butter recipe that has 12 ingredients for, nut butter cake or something, whatever you're going to make. But yeah, I mean, more than anything, I do all the social media. I love doing it. I think it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I got to reach for content. I ask friends, I ask Ryan all the time, take pictures out in Arizona. He's in Arizona now. Take pictures in Arizona with the jars or with the hats or the shirts or whatever, some kind of cool content I can post. Because you have to do it now. If you're not posting it daily or twice daily or at least every other day, you're falling off a bit. So yeah, find us at ilovepapabear.com and eat Papa Bears on all social channels.
Yeah, man, and it's just it's cool. I mean, you're right in the middle of the exciting time. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. But you got a killer product, man. So that's number one. And number two, just keep doing what you're doing. If I can help in any way, obviously reach out. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep buying. You got a customer right here in me, and then I'm sure you help some people out there, maybe some aspiring entrepreneur, just to let them know to follow what excites them, because you never know where you find yourself in a situation like this and a customer of your own. So yeah, thanks for coming on board, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. And like I was saying, I think more than anything, I've enjoyed this process because of the fact that it keeps me focused on something that's not, drinking at a bar or doing what everybody in their, mid to late 20s does. And that's what kind of keeps me, pushing to the next level. I love doing it. Don't get me wrong. But, when my day job's over, I can sit on the couch and watch The Office all night, which I would be happy to do. I love The Office, but instead, I'm working on the business, and it's kind of cool to have something that's yours, that you can take pride in. It's pretty cool.
You said it, man. That's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And thanks again for coming on. If anybody has any questions, I'll be here. I'm sure Mike's going to come by and just stop in. We're happy to answer them. And thanks again for joining in.
Appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. See you.
Be good.